Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another MEWE podcast episode. Today, we've represented Christine Hunschofsky, who's part of Florida's House of Representatives and also part of the Florida's Youth Commission on Mental Health and Substance Abuse. So, hi, Rep. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, and thanks for joining. So, I guess my first question is, what first got you interested in working for better mental health, especially for youth mental health?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in mental health, but the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, I was mayor at the time, that really brought to the forefront to me of how hard it was to find services and that we needed to be doing more to making mental health services accessible, available to students, but also doing a lot more in our communities to educate about what to look for and how one can help oneself in the process.
Yeah, sounds good. And I know that it must have been hard during the tragedy. So thank you for your resilience and your leadership during that tough time. And so, as a policymaker, what are some major misconceptions surrounding mental health and illness that you've seen? I mean, personally, in like society, I've seen like a lot of stigma surrounding mental health. So, what are some aspects of stigma that you personally have encountered as a legislator?
Yeah, so I think the major thing is that people look at mental illness and mental health differently than they look at physical illness and physical health. And I think the more we can do to just talk about it, the more we can reduce that stigma. Uh, I haven't met anybody in my life who hasn't had at some point in time struggled with their mental health or had or has loved ones who suffer from mental illness. And so when we talk more about it and we ask people how they're doing, when people are in difficult jobs like first responders, and we talk to them and ask them about how they deal with the trauma that they experience regularly, that helps to normalize it all. And by normalizing it, we are then removing the stigma.
Mhm.
And I think that's
So,
incredibly important because it's something that everybody has experienced on some level.
mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's what we're trying to do at Maybe. We're trying to like normalize the discussion through like sharing stories about other youth facing like similar tragedies or if they have something that they want to share. So you talked about normalizing. So what are some ways that other people can like normalize in society in general?
As I said earlier, it's a lot of it is about just talking about it, talking about one's own experiences. For example, after the shooting, I did some trauma therapy because the experience was for pretty much everybody in our community very traumatizing.
Mhm.
And also talking to people and asking people how they're doing. And I also think education plays a vital role in this. I think it's important to be able to recognize the difference between, having a bad day and having depressive disorder, or having, being nervous about a test, or having anxiety disorder. So I think it's also talking to people and doing a lot of education on, what mental health is, what mental illness is, and that we can just see that it's something that so many people go through. And the most important thing you can do is get help when you need it.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds absolutely good. Yeah, I definitely agree. And so, as a legislator, do you currently have any like policy recommendations in mind, maybe like more so towards like educating the public that could maybe improve mental health in general?
We're working on the Commission on Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder. I chair the subcommittee of Children and Youth Behavioral Health. We have some recommendations coming up regarding the school systems and the community partners working together more in order to serve students. We are also looking at some of the regulations around group therapy homes. We are also looking into the Baker Act system. So, for example, when somebody breaks their arm and they're transported to the hospital, they're transported in an ambulance. But very often, when someone is Baker Acted, they are transported in a police vehicle. So we're looking at changing those things. One of the bills that I had last session that I sponsored and that passed the House and the Senate unanimously, signed into law by the governor, was PsyPact, which is a psychology interjurisdictional compact. What this does is, if you have a trusted psychologist that you deal with here in Florida and you move to out of state, for example, if you go to college, if you go to work out of state, and they are a compact state, and I think there are about 38 of them right now, you can continue to be treated by that psychologist. So it's very important regarding a continuum of care.
Nice. Yeah, those are definitely some, I think, helpful steps that would help. And so I guess our last question is, how can like we ordinary citizens support improving mental health? Like what are some like small differences or small steps that we can take in our daily lives that maybe like we can make a difference?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to be cognizant of one's own mental health, to learn different strategies. They have the deep breathing. There are different types of meditation, other ways that you can kind of self-regulate, doing a lot of checking in on your friends and family members, making sure they're okay, making yourself aware of all the resources that are available. For example, we have the new 988 number, which is the crisis line. It's a place to call in case someone's in crisis. In Broward County, we also have the number 211, that if somebody's in need of any mental health, behavioral health, whatever kind of resources, they can call 211 and be connected somewhere. So I think it's just really important that we learn a little bit more about mental health, learn a little bit more about mental illness. So that education component's important. Checking in on one another is important. Kind of being aware of oneself is important. And then also being aware of what resources are available in the community, so that if you or someone needs help, that they know where to go.
Yeah, and actually on the topic of resources, for those of you who are tuning in, on MEWE's website, if you check mewe-mentalwellness.org, we do have a separate section with all the different, with the list of all different resources that you can reach out to, including 988, just like Representative Hunschofsky told us. So I guess that's all the questions that I have today. Is there anything that you'd like to add, maybe, Representative?
Yeah, I just want to thank you very much for the work you're doing in this space and for giving me the opportunity to speak to you on your podcast.
No problem. Thank you so much for joining. Have a nice day.